Only God knows the good that can come about by reading one good Catholic book. At Glorious Heritage Books, we reformat and republish cherished Catholic titles from before the Second Vatican Council. Take advantage of these pious works brought back to life. Visit gloriousheritagebooks.com and explore this ever-growing selection from our glorious Catholic heritage.
And don't forget our free cartoons and Catholic educational supplements, including our 162-topic animated Catholic history video series.
I'm Kevin Davis. This is the Catholic Family Podcast, and I'm joined by Dominic and Lauren of Glorious Heritage Books. Now, Dominic is someone who's been on the show many, many times. I'm sure everyone knows his face by now. He's got his own YouTube channel as well, and he and Lauren also have Glorious Heritage Books, and that's primarily what we're going to talk about today, and kind of why they do it, how they got into it, what is it? I suppose that's maybe the primary question. What is Glorious Heritage Books? You've probably all seen some of the cartoons that they have over on the channel as well. They've kind of done everything. These guys just, as I've joked before on Facebook, I said, everything that I've wanted to do, I say I want to do that someday. These guys just do it. I've told like I'm going to write a book someday, and then Dominic just writes a book. I say, darn it, Dominic, just stop doing the things I say I want to do. Anyway, someday I'm going to be inspired by Dominic and actually do these things someday. But I guess, guys, the question I guess to start off with is I guess, what is Glorious Heritage Books? I don't know who wants to answer that. Lauren, thank you for coming on for the first time, by the way. And I don't know, I guess, what Glorious Heritage Books?
All right. Yeah. So in 2022, we started a little company to produce Catholic cartoons, and that kind of turned into a book company. Basically, the main thing that we do is take pre-Vatican II Catholic books, usually from the late 1800s or the early 1900s, and then we reprint them because they're in the public domain. So a couple reasons why that's so beneficial. Number one is those books are hard to come by. A lot of them haven't been reprinted ever since their initial printing way back in the 1900s. So we're making them more available. And also the ones that have been reprinted, there are instances when the Novus Ordo publishers like have been known to fiddle with the original language to make it more acceptable to the Vatican II mindset. I don't have any specific examples, but I think if you've been around in the trad world long enough, you've heard rumors of these things. So what we're doing is taking pre-Vatican II, traditional, solid Catholic books, books written by saints or about saints, or maybe devotional books, and we're going to reprint those and make them available for what we think is a pretty modest price. So it's basically what we do. And then peripheral to that is my own, we'll also publish contemporary works, for instance, like Father Cekada's 3-volume set, or I wrote some books that I have on our website as well. And we're not against looking for new Catholic authors out there. If you are a Catholic author.
So when I finish mine someday.
Right.
someday.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's basically it. So yes. Now,
how do you? I mean,
yeah.
How do you do it with these old books? I mean, what is the literal process of scanning this? I mean, how do you actually do this? I mean, you can't just put it into a scanner and it scans every page. So what's the actual process look like to make these reprints?
Yeah. Let me take another one too. If that's all right. All right. There's a cheap. There's a couple companies out there that what they do is they'll take the scanned pages of the original book, like it was printed in 1885, right? If you go on the internet somewhere, you'll find that someone took a photocopy of the actual page, and those are available online. So what a lot of these companies, some of them, there's maybe 2 or 3 of them out there, they will simply take that scanned copy and just slap it into a book. So what you get then is a really kind of blurry, not a good quality.
I've seen it.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, for sure that it's the original book, or you're pretty sure it's the original book. But it doesn't look nice. So what we have done, and what we always will do, is we'll take the text. Either we're going to take a book and scan it, like literally scan it into our computer, or we'll take a pre-existing scan of a book, and then we have a software that will grab the text out of that picture, that image file, and it'll grab it out and it'll put it into a Word document. So that's the first process, right? And the reason why we want to do that is we can reformat the text. we can reposition it. We can add fonts and italicizations and boldface and things like that. So once that process is done, then we have to scour through line by line and compare it to the original image to make sure that in the scanning process, there are no unintentional mistakes. Like, for instance, sometimes the word "the" becomes like "he" because the scanning process is a
Sure.
TH or something like that. So we'll go through and read all. We have editors that we that work with us that we actually compensate for their time to do that. That's step one. And step two then is after the initial editing process is done, I will go then through and format the book and arrange it so what size book is it going to be? Is it going to be 5.5 by 8.5, 6 by 9, 5 by 8? So we pick the book size, and then we'll pick the font and the layout, the headings, the footers, and page numbers. Then we order a proof copy of that. Design a cover, make a proof copy. Then we have a second editing, a second process where someone goes through and rereads it again for mistakes. So that's basically the nutshell of how. In a nutshell, that's the process. We try to be very, what's the word, diligent to make sure there's no mistakes. Every once in a while, one's going to slip through, but we're pretty assiduous, I think. Yeah, we try to be.
Interesting. And so Lauren, what's your duty? What do you do in this process? How do you feel about it, I suppose, as well? I mean, I know Dominic's kind of this guy, at least when I talk to him, it's always like some new big idea. I mean, what is your role in this whole scheme?
My role. Well, I think was it my idea to start doing reprints?
Yeah,
I would say. So I remember
the initial idea.
Some of my favorite books, about 3 years ago, I really started diving into spiritual reading, which I really hadn't done, just being a mother with young ones that, I just didn't get much time. So a few years ago, I really dived into it, and I had so many books that I just love. And I thought, oh, now that we have a company, let's just reprint these. And even if no one ever buys them, I can give them to people as gifts for cheaper than I can find old copies.
True.
So that was kind of my thought on that. But obviously it went well, and people did buy some, so that's good. And so what I am a final proofreader. My friend and I in Arkansas do all of the final, the proof copies, the not for sale. So she and I do that, and I also do the phase 1 where I pick books and I do the whole thing he just said. So that's a lot of what I do. When we have a real book to scan, we're scanning old school, on a printer, a scanner, we kind of pay our kids for that because that's tedious and a pain. So kids do that job.
So do you usually? So you literally do that? You put every page onto just a normal computer scanner and scan every page? Mamma mia!
Now our 16-year-old is a good coder, a programmer. So he's written a few programs for me that makes things quicker, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, every time I use his program, I give him $5.
Nice. Wow. Interesting. Well, it's kind of one of those funny things because I've wondered that. It's why do you have to still, pay money? I mean, okay, I should be paying just for the paper. That's what people think, right? These reprints. I should just be paying for the, what it costs to reprint. It's well, as you guys explained, there's a lot more that goes into it. You can't just, snap your fingers and a book comes back out. But it's a great idea. I mean, I think Dominic and I talked about this at one point. We have a great 4-part, maybe 5-part. I think it's behind me somewhere over here. Series of Butler's Lives of the Saints, and it's a big thick thing. And Ina just found it on my wife found it on eBay at one point.
Awesome.
And it was being sold by some seminary in England, and they're just getting rid of it. And so she bought it, and it's wonderful. It's a limited edition. I think it's just something you just can't find. And I think that's the type of thing that's I mean, where are you going to find it? How do you have this? I think finding these books that as you say, they're just, you can't really purchase them anywhere, and finding these little treasures. I know a lady in Denver, good Catholic lady. I should connect you guys because I know she used to collect these hard to find Catholic books. I don't know if I don't know if I want to say her name. I'll talk to you guys after the show because she used to have this gigantic library of kind of semi-rare Catholic books that she used to find all over back of the early Amazon days. But the idea being right that, I mean, these works could just disappear, right? They really could just be gone,
right?
And forever, because these seminaries and whatnot, they're tossing them. Libraries aren't going to exist anymore, before we know it.
That's true. That's true.
Scary.
That's true. I and kind of guilty. I mean, we have most of these files are digital files. We do reprint the books, right? But the master copies on the computer, and it's so tight, you can lose that. So the more you print these things, let's get them out, let's get them spread around. People have them in their houses. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? I have some ideas about what's going to happen in the future based on the parallels between church history and the Old Testament, but that's not for today.
Sure.
But yeah, now
that you can find the channel Maccabean Uprising. Anyone who wants to watch that stuff.
Right. Or if you want, I did write a book about that, which you can find on gloriousbooks.com, right? So if you go to Glorious Heritage Books, you can see the book I wrote called Divine Poetry. Real briefly, this is a book that is about 7 years of my life went into making this book and the information that's contained in it. And it documents the chronological parallels or typological parallels between church history and the Old Testament, pretty much right up to our present day. So I did a series on Catholic Family Podcast about this.
Exactly. And we've had a couple, I probably won't remember. I'll try to remember to link one of the primary interview we did where you kind of describe it as a kind of a basic idea, and that can kind of help people get an idea. And I've got the book, and it's really fascinating, really fantastic. I mean, really makes you think. And it's one of those things that's kind of like, well, really pretty bizarre, some of these things that you're starting to you're looking at the connections like, wait, that is kind of strange. so we will see. But I do think, with books, I actually think that on the plus side, the positive side, so it could go that we just, the end of the world is coming and the internet's going to go down and no electricity, it could be, I don't know if that's what you think, but it also could be that I think people are actually becoming more traditionalist. I think you see these younger generations they're going completely one way or the other. They're going totally wacko, liberal, insane, or they're going pretty decently traditional. I mean, actually finding truth and actually finding actual Catholicism, and a lot of that is through reading. You talk to some of these young guys in Europe, at least, and these guys they're going and they're reading St. Thomas Aquinas and whatnot. And these are guys who had no faith. I mean, it's really fascinating to see how they're finding, and a lot of it is through reading good books. So again, great, shows you how important books are.
I do. I kind of can see what you're saying there. The initial glamour and glitz and attraction of the internet has been muted, or kind of like it's a little bit dead, because I think the more information that was available, the more worthless it all becomes. Now you just get a whole bunch of sound bites on there. You a whole bunch of podcasters who are looking for clickbait, and you start to scroll through all your news feeds and your YouTube feeds, and you start to realize like this is a bunch of garbage, and you find an old book, right? I think that's it. A lot of truth to what you said there.
Well, and it all has its place. I mean, sure, obviously, we don't want you to get rid of the internet. You're listening to our podcast right now, and you can go to gloriousheritagebooks.com. So the internet has its place. But I totally agree with you. I mean, how many of us, I've had my times where I'm addicted to my phone, and I'm sure many of us have. But then if you get off of that and you say, okay, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to touch it today. And you sit down with a good, big old thick book, and you feel so much better afterwards, don't you? I mean, just like, and that's not even talking about spiritual reading. I'm just talking about, even if it's a, I don't know, even a novel, just a novel, just to get your brain away from the screen and get it into a book, and you're afterwards, like you're still in the story, so much better, so much deeper, and you kind of like, wow, I missed that, and how sad is that the generations after me, they don't even know, they don't even know life without. I mean, I remember life with AOL dial-up internet. I mean, that was not that long ago, but that was my childhood, where I was like, yeah, the internet was there, but you couldn't really use it. I mean, it existed, but it was really slow, and it was for our home time. It was kind of, you kind of sent emails, but that was about it. And the kids now, they have iPads but I hope they bring books back. I mean, I hope that becomes for intelligence purposes, I suppose. I hope it comes back.
I really hope so too. You sure do see the effects of it on the younger generation. I mean, it's quite astonishing. I mean, I've ran into a lot of kids from that generation that can't use a clock. With the analog clock, or other things, or the attention spans. At first, you don't quite realize what you're looking at with some of these younger generation kids, but their attention spans are way, way much smaller than I think ours were when we were kids. And it has to be because all the screen time. Yeah. So it's pretty bad.
Well, and that's a good question. And and this is actually a really good recommendation. We're just starting Lent. Obviously, we're just into I don't know, we'll probably publish this in the next week, but so second week of Lent, we'll say. And so I would highly suggest, I mean, anyone who's still looking for, penance or, to have a good Lent, to even just have a day or something where you get rid of all technology and pick up a book. So I guess maybe Lauren, I'll ask you this. I mean, what are some of the books that someone could go over to you guys and purchase that might be fitting for, for spiritual reading for Lent? I don't know if you have literally, it doesn't have to be necessarily specifically for Lent, but something that would be just spiritual reading for now.
Yeah. Boy, in the last month, we have put a lot of new titles on the website. So Miracles of St. Anthony, that's a very popular one. And I love St. Anthony. Like, I would have thought that I knew almost all the miracles, but there are over 100 in this little book. It's just like a page per. So it's really great to read out loud too, I feel like. And there were so many I didn't know. I was like,
and the kids will love it because to
read to the kids.
Yeah,
it's just perfect.
Because each story is a bite-sized story. It's maybe at the most a page and a half.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now it's not for kids, but I mean, for a good read aloud for your family, I just love that one. And Legends of the Blessed Sacrament is
another
the same
one.
way.
Yeah.
Just tons of stories, but
about miracles and amazing things that happen with saints, usually with saints, and the Blessed Sacrament. So, again, we lost Kevin there for a second. No, we didn't. He's putting the website up.
No, I'm here. I'm just sharing your screen right now. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
I just finished one called How to Pray Always.
Well, you guys do it. You do have more. Nice.
Right. And I love How to Pray
Yeah.
Always. So I just finished that one. Excellent. Very small, easy reading. Don Bosco was actually written 2 years before he died, which I just think is so awesome. Even had miracles in there, and it was amazing. Boy, there's a lot.
Yeah. We have about 5 or 6 more in the pipeline this month as well, and a whole bunch of other ones that are coming. So
yeah,
I don't know, we've been putting like 4 or 5.
They look nice.
At least. Yeah, at least. And Dominic makes their cover, which I love, a fresh cover on it.
Yeah, right? That it really does make a difference. And it looks, I know this is kind of silly, but it looks nice on a coffee table or something. It does, there is something to the old kind of, dusty books, and
yeah.
Did I lose you guys? That are shelf somewhere, but the nice looking covers that is the colors that kind of shoot at you, and someone walks in the room, they see that, it's like, oh, you know what's that book over there? That it does. It really does make a difference. And we are, especially in this world with so much technology and screens, our eyes are we're so visual these days. But
I try to almost exclusively use classical Catholic art. So stay with the theme of being traditional Catholic, not a theme, right? But stay with the beauty, the truth, and the goodness of the faith before Vatican II.
Well, it's cool. Just real quick, kind of a funny story. We have a friend here she's Austrian, but she does just what you guys do, but with German books. So almost the exact same thing. I could probably attach that link for any of our German viewers. Lillian Desfeld I think I'll try to attach the link. But it's exactly what you guys are doing, but with German books. And so she did one about, I don't know, from 150 years ago, advice for marriage. And she took an image of my wedding, of mine and Ina's wedding, and put it on the cover. So it's pretty crazy. Every time I see it every now and then, it's like, oh, hey, that's a cool. You can kind of see, it's not that picture, but it's a picture like that. That was our wedding, and just a beautiful, amazing church in Germany. But it does absolutely matter. You got to grab the attention.
It'll grab your eye, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, the back of that head looks familiar. No, that's definitely interesting. So what else do you guys have? So and let me pull up that website again. So you have books. I mean, obviously you guys have the cartoons. I shouldn't say obviously. I mean,
no, it's fine. You're doing it. A couple other things that we have, and some other things that we're going to be working on.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our cartoons, which Kevin, you yourself have offered your voice to play one of the parts of the free cartoons we have.
Unfortunately.
No, it was great. That's a very popular.
They're great cartoons.
Yeah, and I definitely want to make more. Thank you very much, though. I'm a teacher now, so I have less time to do cartoons. In the summertime, I hope to pop out 1 or 2 more cartoons. So Kevin, maybe I'll be asking you, please, would you do another voice for me?
Of course. And if anyone ever wants one, I know we had some viewers from Catholic Family Podcast who ended up in the show too. So you guys keep in touch if you want to be a voice actor. Maybe get in touch with Dominic. You never know when he's going to be doing something.
Absolutely. I'm going to be doing, hopefully, I want to do the story of Martin Luther for Catholics. I find that, I don't know why I come back to this. It's a story of the villain, right? But there's Protestantism is so prevalent in our society, and you see Protestant churches everywhere. And then I see a lot of Catholic kids who don't really quite understand where it came from. So I feel maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of want to do a cartoon on that. So that would be one. And the other one I think would be the French Revolution too. And those would be, maybe I'll stay, those are the two negative topics that I do want to touch upon. But
very important.
But very important.
Totally. Yeah, I think if there's any, I mean, I'd say the three, right? I'd say that you'd say the French Revolution, Luther, and then Vatican II are probably the three biggest events in human history for the last 1,000 years, probably. I'd say that's pretty fair. I mean,
I think you're right.
500 years for sure. Yeah. They're the biggest events. I think that's not a question. Yeah. So I agree. Yeah. Cool. That'd be nice. Yeah. You can't know enough about Luther. I mean, he was talk about a creep. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Back to the website. Yeah. Let's see. What else do you guys have?
So, right. Oh, well, thank you, by the way. Thanks for doing that. The other thing, well, on the topic of history and on the topic of cartoons, we also just finished maybe a couple months ago. If you go into the educators tab, so if you're going to go to the right, see educators there, and we have a history video series. So this took me a whole year to do. It's 162 topic animated Catholic history series for kids.
Church history. Did you say church?
Yeah, church history. I'm sorry. Yeah, animated Catholic church history for kids, right? So I pretty much pulled major topics, right, from church history, saints, villains, events, things like that. And each of those is about an 8-minute animated history lesson where one of our characters is called Mr. Charity. He breaks down the topic and gives examples for kids. And then Mrs. Charity comes on and does some stuff on the chalkboard. And then there's a short story at the end. There's pictures in there. And there's accompanying this series then is a question and answer worksheet for each topic. You can download that. Kids can follow along, watch the video, and answer some basic questions. It's not meant to be too in-depth. It's meant for maybe middle school, elementary to middle school kids, just to give them a basic acclimation or introduction to some of these topics.
But I learned every single episode. Just saying, there was a lot I didn't know.
Sure. Yeah. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been so much work. That's amazing.
I couldn't believe how much work it was.
Wow. It was a lot. I'll tell you, I'm just going to bust in here and say, so one day we were going for a walk outside. We have like an acre here. So we were just going around. I'm like, what if we do some kind of church history thing? Because Dominic is, I can say, I guess, you can't say yourself, he's very good at telling stories. And so for many years, obviously now we've been parents for 19 years, our kids get all these stories and they hear so many, they just get all of him, telling all the stories and just relating it. And so I've thought for years, I'm like, I wish like every mom, my friends could just hear what you're saying and give it to their kids, And so I was like, you should do something.
Their dads are probably also very good.
Their dads are wonderful too. I'm not saying their dads are wonderful.
Some better than others.
I just always thought, I wish everybody could hear this. Anyway, so I said, maybe we should do something like this. So we're walking one day and he stays up way later than I do. So I think it was like a day or two later. And Dominic's like, so I think I charted out this history series I think we should do. I have 162 topics and he already had them. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing it. So it was like, but he just laid it out. I'm like,
you need to be careful what ideas you give this guy.
Well, everyone's got 24 hours in a day, so there's a limit here. No doubt about it.
Anyway, so
this is true.
Series.
Yeah.
And now this summer we're working on unit studies, more for middle school and high school, because like he said, French Revolution, like there's not many things since obviously Vatican II happened in the 60s.
Good.
What has been produced since, and how many times mothers have come and said, what do you use for history? What do you use for history? What do you use for history for homeschooling purposes? And there's really, everything we have is from the 40s, 50s, I would say, 30s. And a lot more.
Yeah.
Maybe not everything. A lot. I speak in that kind
generalities.
So anyway, so we thought maybe unit studies, which are just a nice I don't know, we're still fleshing out the idea, but just a digital download, anyone can just supplement it in whenever they want or wherever. Like obviously French Revolution, maybe Papal Schism kind of unit study and go through that. Just great things that aren't.
There's so
Yeah,
many.
there's so many.
I've also come to understand that a lot of the children who are born sedevacantist don't have as much of an understanding of Recognize and Resist or the papacy itself, or and because they lack the experience. They themselves haven't come out of the Novus Ordo. They haven't had to wrestle with the issues, and sometimes the parents say, "Well, I'm just going to raise them Catholic, and that's what I need to be doing," which is true, right? But I think a lot of parents also want their children to have. So anyway, so in that with that in mind, I also want to do a couple unit studies with the writings of Father Cekada or Bishop Pavrunas or any of the writers who have defended the church against the idea that these are real popes, right? Not just exclusively exposing the errors of Vatican II, but in some kind of like high school, middle school age friendly kind of way with text, with some questions, with some quizzes, lesson plans for the moms. You can go through, maybe take like 4 or 5 weeks to go through this unit study. We'll have videos. You can go back here. I'm going to recommend you watch this video between this time mark and this time mark. This is, for instance, I don't know, Bishop Sanborn talking about Vatican II, let's say, and that I can link things up in there and have a unit study for all kinds of things. So look for those things coming. Probably in the summertime we'll have those produced, and look for those then. So yeah, it's still a ways off. Maybe for next week.
Cool. Yeah. But and so that'll be animated as well, or that's just going to be a download? That's going to be a downloaded sheet.
Yeah.
That's not a video.
No, in fact, since we publish books, maybe I'll just make some books to go along with the unit studies. So you don't have to download it. You can just actually, if you want to buy the book from us.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yes, but yeah, I don't think we're going to animate those because
it's for older.
Yeah, for
children.
older kids.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's an interesting question. I talked to a guy in England who is also trying to work towards some sort of homeschool curriculum based on the classical form of education, and I think again it's just interesting that you see, especially after COVID. We're probably going to be kicked off the internet for saying that still, but people started to pull their kids out of school because they started to see what was actually going on. They started to actually, the kids had to do school at home, and so they're watching over their shoulders, like, okay, what are they teaching them? Okay, they actually paid a little more attention, and homeschooling boomed. I mean, it had a huge boom, and I think again, not just homeschooling, also people starting to come to truth and faith in the Catholic Church, and so I think, and I hold to, I think it could go either way. Actually, I think it could go that the world's just going to kind of start going really, really crazy and go towards its end, or I think it could really turn towards this, kind of better way, and it's going to turn into. I think it could turn into this religious battle eventually. Maybe a couple of generations from now, it's going to be back to being Catholics, Jews, and Muslims rather than liberals and conservatives. I think it's actually going to turn. That's kind of my theory at the moment. But I mean, if that's the case, I think you're gonna have a lot of people who are homeschooling and looking for this, exactly, looking for help. And my parents, back, I guess this would have been now 35, 37, almost 40 years ago, they had no research. They had no idea where to go. I think they found, they used, I think Our Lady of, Our Lady of Victory.
Lady of Victory. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't, was it Our Lady of Victory?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, there was some curriculum that they found that I think it was Novus Ordo, but it was pretty good, and I think they used that for a while. But my mom, a lot of it, my mom just found, she did it on her own. She's like, okay, I'm gonna pull this. This didn't work. This didn't work, and this didn't work. And okay, and this was kind of not pre-internet, but I mean, really before you had these huge groups of people who could connect immediately on Facebook. It was before those times, and I think now you really can. I mean, people can say, hey, I need something to teach my 11th grade son at home about Catholic history, and we need that. So I think it's awesome that you guys are doing.
You definitely do. I mean, there's two aspects to that the homeschooling mentality. I think initially was, well, I'm going to defend them from the world. I'm going to pull them out of the world and at least keep them from the filth and slime and the evil things of the world. So that's the victory right there. If you just simply do that and teach the kids, bare minimum stuff, that's you already have succeeded in potentially saving their souls just by pulling them out of the world. But then on top of that, now we can do better than just simply defending them. Now we can actually enrich them. We have so many more resources available. We're actually creating our own resources as a sedevacantist society. New books, new internet content, We have the priests writing books now. So we're actually content creators on an increasingly larger scale. So we can do better than just simply saving ourselves. Now we can go out and save other people, so to speak. We can kind of like turn the tide, right? Like or maybe do that. Get ourselves really educated on Catholic history, at least in the example that we're talking about, Catholic history. Get ourselves really educated on that and go educate other people about that now. Which is going to be good. But,
and exactly. I mean, if you learn the history, and it's amazing if you read the encyclicals of the true popes, you will see clearly. Read the encyclicals of the true popes and learn a little bit about Vatican II, and you'll be okay. Clear. This is really clear. I mean, it really is that the popes before taught clearly against Vatican II. That's the amazing thing about it. Like they're really clear. Like, okay, you can't do this. You can't do this, this, and this. And then Vatican II came and did this, this, and this. And then, well, then it can't compute. And I think that is good. And that there's so many things that need to be taught. I mean, we don't have. Just this is one of those amazing things when you read these encyclicals. You see the Pope is supposed to be here to guide us. Like he is literally our shepherd on earth. He's here to say, here's what you should do. Here's what you should think. Here's what you should watch and read, etc. And we don't have that. We have a lunatic who like quite literally is trying to lead us to hell. And I mean, and so since we don't have that, we have to kind of doggy paddle on our own, trying to survive. And I think that's awesome. Again, as you said, that I do think though we've gotten out of the darkest ages of that. I think we're in a way now that we're okay. We're our heads above water, and now we're like, okay, we've got this. We've got a little bit of momentum. We can build stuff. We can create. Right. We can print books, and that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a quick story that I want to share that I think I don't think I've ever told you this, or we've ever told you, how Glorious Heritage Books started, and we started the cartoon idea. So we were living in Montana at the time, and Dominic's like, we should create cartoons. So that was your idea of like, oh, we've been parents a long time here. And we, like you said, even with your mom and the homeschooling books, you just had to pick and choose, right? And it's like, oh, kids, well, that's really wrong. We would watch a Saint movie that was no sordo. And it's like, ignore that part. So that's how he started thinking about cartoons. And then we kind of put it on the back burner. It's one of those things, I want to do that, but, time goes on. And then I had just found your channel. I don't know if it was the first episode I watched, but I heard you were interviewing Susan Peake. So this is now years ago,
cool.
Remember. Mm-hmm. And that was our kid's favorite author of Catholic stories for a while there. So we watched it. I remember my oldest son and I watched your interview, and in it you were saying, so we need Catholic content and we need creators to create things. And I remember I went home because we were at the playground watching while the little kids were playing. And I went home and I was like, I just watched this interview with this guy named Kevin and Susan Peake, because that's how I was excited with cool. So we should get back on that cartoon idea. Like, let's do that. And then it just happened. And then he started creating. He was drawing cartoons. Cool. He bought an animator. He learned how to animate. And I remember him saying, like, people don't want to just hear our voices. Like, we can't be every character, And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, we need voice talent for this. And your mom was in some group, but I had never talked to your mom, but she was in some group. So I thought, I'm going to ask her. She seems to know people. Like, I'm going to ask her if she knows anyone.
That's true.
Who would want to be a voice for a cartoon. And she's like, oh, I think this is a great idea. I love this idea. You should ask Kevy. You should call Kevy, of course.
That's my mom.
I'm not asking Kevy if he'll do it. Will you ask Kevy? He'll do it. Yeah. So anyway, that's how it all kind of started. And I rolled from there. And thank you for putting on the voice talent, because then that really helped us get voice talent from all over the world. Really, we had some people from around the world. So.
Yeah, it's your podcast that pretty much launched our company, by the way. I mean, I take that for granted.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that you had the platform to begin with, got us going. So it's your viewership that are our customers right now.
So thank you.
We're working.
Yeah, of course. but I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, isn't it? And I'm sure there are people who've watched those cartoons and who will read the books and who will continue that. It's kind of that, pass it on mentality. And I know that's the case. And I think that it's so funny with this podcast, because it was never intended to be anything big at all. Like, it was never intended to be, it was just always like this. Yeah. I was sick of COVID. I was sick of talking about COVID. We only talked about COVID. I'm like, okay, I'm sick of it. So I want to talk about other things. And so I want to talk to all of my friends. We're going to do a YouTube, because I used to be a sports guy. I used to do sports podcasts. And I was like, nah, but sports podcast, I want to talk about something that's, a little more substantive. So I did. And eventually just a couple big breaks, and, ended up kind of turning into something. But I think it was, I think it was at the right time, because it was right at COVID, when I think people started to realize, okay, this world is insane, but we have to break out of it. We still live in it. We still have to, we have to be here. We have to not live in the catacombs anymore. And I think I saw it in Omaha. You had these older generations of priests, so Bishop Pivarunas, Father Gregory, etc., and they're wonderful, saintly, incredible people. I mean, really incredible people who don't sleep. They're incredible, and I think their mentality was they are going to work till their shoes fall off till the end of the world. I think they really thought, especially back when they first became priests, they really thought this is the end times. This is right. It's the 1970s, 80s. The world is ending. And I think that's how they worked for 40, 50 years. Like, we're just going to work our feet to the bone, and we're going to save as many souls as possible, because the world's going to end. And I think the younger generation of priests, like my brother is one of them, and I have many friends, Father Borja, Father Gecko, Father McKenna, who, these priests, I think, are the younger ones who are not of that generation. They're much more now, they're builders. They're not the savers, they're the builders. And I think that's what, also certainly inspired me, where it's like, okay, this is something new. This is the Catholic Church. This is not just in the catacombs kind of saving ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's, again, I think, Dominic, every time you come on the show, I take it. It's cool that you guys kind of came on, on the show, and it helped, but I'm really inspired by you guys, because I think, again, I just think that that's what we need. We need to build it, because look, you go down to the train station, and who do you see dressed up nicely trying to convert people? It's not the Catholics, it's the Jehovah's Witnesses. Who are the ones who knock on your door and say, hey, do you don't want to learn about Jesus? And I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but don't we need to do something? Shouldn't we do something? Are we satisfied with just sitting and, kind of, going to mass on Sunday and, going home? And I don't want to preach, but I think we need we need to be doers.
You would say that.
Do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dominic agrees with
Honestly,
you.
there's a near infinite amount of things we could do. So it's not even like you have to do the recommendations that, but go save a soul. Let's go spread the faith. Like, pick, you can do it in person, you can do it on the internet, you can do it by creating, you can do it, there's a million ways to do it. I've been telling my kids that. I said, pick something for the church, make it your lifelong thing, have it in the back of your head, grow it, inspire people with it, inspire yourself with it, but do something for the building up of the body of Christ on earth. It has eternal rewards. Yeah, exactly. And so some of the kids take my advice, some of the kids don't. But we're working on that.
The older they get, it'll come. Young is it's harder to give your own time away. That's for sure. Even still, but I do think, and I think, again, like you said, it can take all sorts of things, and it doesn't have to be even building content. For goodness sake, go and ask your priest if you can clean the toilets. There's so many things that you can do to help in every way. But if you can, if you have a talent, and and like Dominic, we'll talk about that next, that you're writing a novel. So let's move on. I've got to get running here in a couple minutes. So let's get on to Dominic's upcoming book that is hopefully going to be, I guess, I don't know, printed soon, or it's getting close to being finished. So Dominic, tell us about this book.
Absolutely. I'm done writing it. And then one of my trusted editors submitted her edits to me, and I'm just going through and just kind of fixing up commas and adding capitalizations, but the book is written. So the whole thing is written. And then we also have an illustration for the book. We have Mrs. Andrea England is the illustrator. It's
a good friend of mine. Yeah.
She's beautiful, our artist. I'll throw some images up on the screen here. So we're just we have a couple more illustrations coming in. Probably should be sometime in March that they'll be finished coming in, and then we'll have it published. Right. So I want to, and I will eventually. It's a matter of time. I have a 10-topic, 10-part series. Thank you. 10-part series of Catholic fiction. So it's going to be historical Catholic fiction. What I want to do is take 10 major time periods from church history, starting from the beginning, and have the number 10th, the 10th episode will be Vatican II. It's all the way to Vatican II. And I want to have each of those 10 time periods be a backdrop for an historical fiction novel, right? So a couple different reasons why I want to do this. Number one, it's a great way to teach Catholic history because it's an action drama setting, right? So it'll also acquaint them with characters like Constantine or Charlemagne or Martin Luther and all these things all the way through, or Bernini and Montini and Roncalli in the 10th episode. But in the series, and then number two, the second reason that I want to write these is that I want to inculcate into the series the papacy itself, in terms of like papacy presented itself, right? And this would be a homegrown grassroots remedy for the recognize and resist arguments that these children might face later in life when they kind of get out into the broader circles. They'll hear the papal bull Unum Sanctum in the Middle Ages and be part of the story from that time, or they'll hear Pope St. Pius X when he gave his speech, "If You Love the Pope" speech. And then I'll have the characters have reverence to the Pope with no hint of recognize and resist, right? So that they'll learn the truth of the papacy without really understanding that they have arguments against recognize and resist ready to go when they get to that. So that's another reason why I want to do that. And one more thing about the book, right, is that I want to show continuity between the stories to also give the readers an idea that we are all one family in the church and we have a history, a collective history together. So I've picked three characters at the beginning of the story. One is going to be, he's going to start off as a Roman soldier. The other character is a Germanic slave, and the other character is a British or a slave boy from Britain. All three of those, in the first book, they get together and they meet our Lord in some arranged circumstances, and they convert and become part of the early church. Now, the remaining 9 parts of the series are going to have the descendants of these three characters are going to be the lead characters in each of the books going forward, right? So, and that's the series is going to follow these three families, so that by the end of the 10th series, you're going to have, for instance, let's say Cardinal Ottaviani is going to be a descendant of the Roman character in this book, let's say, right? Or such and such. Maybe we'll find a German character, at the end, or something like that. So they can just kind of understand that one event does lead to the other, and that their families too also have a history that goes way back, and that, for instance, they might think to themselves, look, in the time of Martin Luther, good thing that my family lived in Bavaria as opposed to northern Germany, because they stayed Catholic. If they, the consequences of decisions made hundreds of years ago could affect their lives right now, right? There's a couple different reasons for the book. I'm going to have, like I said, illustrations throughout, really good illustrations, because Mrs. England is exceptional.
She's great. Yeah.
And
wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I hope to.
And one thing that first wrote his first book, like when you first wrote it, whatever,
rough draft. Yeah.
He sent it out to like 10 of our friends' teenagers. So teenagers around the country kind of read the first draft. Smart. And he wrote a big survey and like, what do you think would make it more exciting? Just tried to get some. Of course, he's going with like a Susan Peake feel, because she's just so good. So just like that exciting, book. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. So,
and they gave you good reviews, or or did you have to change the whole book?
I liked it. But anyway, no, we didn't change the whole book.
I'll have some samples on the website soon. But I've been trying to promote this book for months now. But I think we are finally there. It's just a matter of getting those illustrations in, they're inbound soon. And then we can finally get this book out, and I'll start writing the second one. So, there you go.
Cool. And so, I mean, I guess the way to buy that will obviously be on gloriousheritagebooks.com.
That's right. Yep. www.gloriousheritagebooks.com. You can see it now. I might flip open the pre-order button. So if you watch this interview and you want to pre-order it, I think we're close enough to the publication date that I feel comfortable you doing that. And actually, I would appreciate that if you do want to pre-order the book. I'd appreciate that, because then I'll have a better idea of what demand will be. It's always hard to know.
Yeah, it's hard to know if it's 20 to order or 100.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
Especially with something you think might be a good one.
And then also, I plan on also listing out the 10 major topics of the series, so you'll have an idea of which ones I'll be covering. And I'll try to commit to a date where the second book will be published as well. So hopefully we'll have that sometime in the summer or the fall of this year. So.
Respect. I think that's what I need to do so that I'd actually ever write like what I wrote like 4 or 5 chapters and then I got too busy. So I think I need to just say, okay, I'm gonna publish it on June 10th. It's like, okay, now I have to do that. That's a good idea. I'm gonna have to tell my wife. It's like I'm gonna have to do that.
What's your book on?
It was really good. We listened to you. You read like a chapter. This is years ago.
Chapter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was years ago, and I've barely gotten any farther, unfortunately. Yeah, it's kind of a similar idea as yours, Dominic, but kind of following right in the middle of 1958 in Rome, kind of through the first years of Vatican II, but then flash forward to our time as well, and kind of a treasure hunt type of a thing. So, but it's still in the very beginning stages. I'm not. I got to about 5 chapters and got blocked, and I was like, okay, no, we'll see someday.
I get it.
And 3 little kids is as you guys know, it's not a ton of time.
Little kids is that's a big thing. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, but someday we'll see. But I'm glad to see once you're done with your like, okay, now I can move on with mine and take the place of so then maybe by then it'll calm down a little bit by on my side, and I'll start publishing my own. But no, I really appreciate it, guys. It's really exciting, and I will pre-order because we're coming to the US in May, end of April. So it's hard for us to find a lot of these books. So you can get some from England, quite a few, but there are many that you just cannot find, and so you have to get them from the US publishers. And so we ordered them all to my parents' house, and then we had to go. Cause in the shipping from the US is just absurd, just insane. You can't ship things from the US to Germany, so it's just it's insane. So we'll go and pick up some of the books, but that will be one of them. We'll definitely we'll pre-order that, Dominic. I'm excited for that, though. I'm not a teenager, but I can still enjoy it. My kids are a little too young, but that's all right. Yeah, a little bit of. I love historical fiction. That's my soft spot. That's my absolute soft spot. That's my favorite.
I think it's pretty cool too.
Oh, I love it. Too exciting. And did you say how you can learn? You can be edified, and it's exciting. So it's you
can be entertained.
best of all worlds. Awesome. Well, guys, I guess then I will wrap this up. If you guys have any last comments, I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, if people don't want to go check out this website by now, then they're crazy. Dominic, Lauren, it's been awesome. Thanks, as always. Everyone, please like, share, subscribe, comment. We'll have you both on again sometime, of course. Always enjoy it. And until then, God bless you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. God bless.